If you are experiencing foundation issues, get a free estimate from Ox Foundations.
It is a minute now after the hour. You're watching Daybreak Live on WOTM and WOIL television. Talladega County Probate Judge Randy Jinks has been suspended after a 78-page complaint was sent to the Alabama Court of Judiciary. The complaint alleges numerous instances of Jinks behaving unprofessionally and in violation of the canons of judicial ethics, including inappropriate comments of a racist and sexist nature, a lengthy and sometimes profane tirade regarding a sandwich and others, including providing county-owned equipment to a convicted felon that Jinks had living on his property. Now, Randy Jinks is here this morning, and Randy, good morning to you. I'm glad you're safe from the storms this morning.
Well, I'm glad you are too, and it's always good to be with you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Randy, in his first full sit-down interview since the charges were let several weeks ago. Randy, what do you say to all of this?
Well, first I want everybody to know that I'm the same Randy that you voted for and supported 2 years ago. I haven't changed. I am a decent person. I am very respectful around women. I do not use racial slurs. I do not go off on tirades in office. I do get mad if somebody steals my food. But I am at peace. I am content. This has probably been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life because it's moved me closer to the Lord. I have prayed a lot about this. It really shook me when it first happened. You could have blew me over with a feather. But I have got people praying for me all over the state, perhaps all over the country. And I have prayed continuously, but I've prayed for protection because I knew I was innocent of these charges. I'm not saying that I haven't made a few errors along the way, but the overwhelming majority of these very vicious and vile and vulgar accusations are false. So I've prayed for protection. God's given me that protection. I'm content. I have nothing to fear. People can say what they want, Jimmy Dale, but these people cannot hurt me because I'm being protected by God Almighty. And I pray for them because anybody that would unleash such a vicious character assassination must be a miserable person right now. I want to make note of two things. Not a single person, there's not been a person withstanding with any issue before the court that has filed a complaint. There has not been a person, an aggrieved party of any case that has filed a complaint. This is an internal attempted coup by some people that for some reason didn't like me, didn't like the way I come in. I come into office. I took a year, I thought, to get acclimated to the job. I didn't want to come in and make any hasty decisions and make any, I wanted to be precise in what I did and get a good feeling and get acclimated to the job before I started really exercising any kind of judicial authority. But after a year, I felt comfortable. I've made some decisions. My chief clerk, one decision was regarding these adoptions, and she was just adamantly opposed to it. She had a personal conflict with the attorney. She just did not like him as an individual. And I think that's what initiated this. This is something that's been worked on probably 10 months. It's something that has been compiled, but these are lies, half-truths, innuendos, and people that have sat outside my office without my knowledge of knowing they were there and have listened to personal, private conversations that I have with individuals about personal and private matters. And they've taken these comments and they've misconstrued them and twisted them and made them sound ugly and vile, and that's just the truth. I think everybody that knows me knows that this is not me. I have got just an enormous amount of support from people that have said, we'll stand with you. We know this is a lie. We've known you all your life, and we know this is not the person you are. And Jimmy, I have been reading a lot of books, in addition to reading my Bible a lot. And I had a friend of mine give me this book called Prison to Praise. And this little book is not about a prison with bars. It's about a prison of circumstances. and how to be set free. It's a book that tells you should be thankful for all things. Man, when I first read all this, it was sort of hard for me to grasp the idea that I could be thankful for what I'm going through. But after I have read this book, I've come to realize that regardless what happens, I'm better. I'm better off coming out of this as a man than I was going in. And I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be fine.
Let's, Randy, let's talk about...
I brought you this book. This is for you.
Okay, thank you. Let's talk about some of the accusations in this 78-page complaint sent by the Alabama Court of Judiciary. Randy has said to me, you can ask me anything that you want to ask me. And I am going by these complaints. One of the things that stands out in my mind, yes?
You can ask me what you want to ask me. I want everybody to know I am here against the advice of my attorney. My attorney doesn't want me to talk to anybody. But as I told you yesterday, my good name and character is a priority here, more so than a job. That's what I'm fighting for, is my good name and character. So I may not be able to answer you completely, but you're welcome to ask me anything you want to.
The heart of the complaint seems to be the allegation that Judge Jinks, by his numerous comments or actions collectively referred to as demeanor in the probate court office, or in the execution of duties of the probate judge in his official capacity, has exhibited grossly inappropriate demeanor that has created a difficult, unprofessional, and inappropriate atmosphere during the ordinary workday of that office and has injured the judiciary. How do you answer that?
Well, first of all, let me say that my chief clerk is the supervisor of the office. She manages the office. That person manages the office. They supervise all the employees. I'm probably not in the office. 90% of the day, I'm in my office processing files and doing my job. My primary work is with judicial matters. It's hearings regarding the probating of wills, the issuing of letters of administration, letters testamentary, guardianships, conservatorships, adoptions, mental health commitments. Those are the things that dominate my time. I'm not in the office enough to actually affect the atmosphere of the office. Now, as far as demeanor, I would wager that anybody that has been in my court for an adoption, for a mental health commitment, or any matter, would tell you that I'm a very compassionate person. I have a genuine concern for people. I know that the good Lord placed me here, and I know He placed me here for a reason. And my reason for being here was not to sit in the office and let these people bring a paper in and me sign it and get another paper and sign it. My job was to sit there, process files, learn the job, and when I put my name on the signature, I wanted to make sure that I had reviewed it. It's a practice of a lot of judges to delegate authority to their chief clerk. And I think that may have been the practice in the past. But when I come in and I told my chief clerk I will be processing petitions here because I can't learn the job unless I do, I really felt like I was taking a workload off of this person, because this person had an extremely amount of authority in this office and a heavy workload. So I felt like I was doing this person a favor. But as it looks like now, there was a resentment that began to grow because I was, in exercising my authority, I was pulling away the authority that this person had had previously. Now, when it comes to making appointments, like when the power company needs to come to the court with a condemnation hearing, they have an eminent domain when they're running power lines and they need an easement. We have to have a hearing, then I have to appoint a 3-member commission. And I told this person that I would be making those appointments. I sit in on interviews when we hire people. I think that may be something that they weren't accustomed to. So it's not like I've come in and tried to run the office heavy-handedly. I took my time to gradually get acclimated to this office, but I know I was put there for a reason, Jimmy Dale. And if I didn't accomplish what good Lord put me there to accomplish, then I have wasted an opportunity.
The complaint accuses you of making racist and racially insensitive slurs and comments about African Americans, making sexual and or inappropriate comments to employees about sexual activities, watching and sharing with employees a video of women doing striptease, a video of a scantily clad woman provocatively dancing, and or provocative photograph or images looking at women inappropriately, sharing sexually inappropriate anecdotes, making degrading, ridiculing comments to or about women, including the female employees, and cursing and playing a video with cursing, and generally using crude, coarse, vulgar, offensive, and inappropriate and improper language. The incident of inappropriate demeanor charged in this complaint are not isolated incidents. They are representative of ongoing pattern and practice of inappropriate demeanor. Those are strong charges, Randy.
They are. How long have you known me, Jimmy Dale?
A long time.
Okay. Have you ever seen me conduct myself in any manner similar to what you've just read on that paper?
This is not a question and answer between you and I, but I would answer that as I have not.
Okay. There's some stuff in there that is true. But my demeanor is not what they say it is. I'm respectful around the women. I've never made any kind of inappropriate comment to any of the women in the office. I have never used a racial slur. I don't use the N-word. That's not me. Anybody that knows me knows. Some of my closest friends know that that's not the case. Now, as far as the video, I have one male employee in my office, and he and I were in the basement working on poll books one day, just the two of us, and I received a little video, music video, and I shared it with him, and I admitted to everyone that it was an error in my judgment at that time. But it was two guys at that point in time, and when it come through, I said, I wish you'd just look at this. He wasn't offended by it, but needless to say, I admitted that that was an error in my judgment. Now, I got a video of a woman dancing with a vacuum cleaner. It was about a 15-second, a friend of mine sent it to me. It's one of these things that's on YouTube. I can show it to you on YouTube right now. It's about a 20-second video. I played it, I replayed it the second time, and then the accuser come walking into my office. And I noticed the accuser come walking in at a faster rate than they normally walk into my office. Mm-hmm. It was almost as if they knew what I was. It's almost like they recognized the music. They come in and they said, "What are you listening to?" And I said, "This little video." And I turned it toward her for about 3 seconds. And that's the way that went. I never said, "Hey, come here. I got something I want to show you." Never. That never happened. It was not. It's all been described in a way to shed a bad light on me. It's just another illustration of how these people have taken an incident and they've twisted it to make it look vile and ugly because that's the way they want people to view me. But that's the facts about that. But I'm very respectful. I've never told a woman in my office that I like to look at her breast. I do not look at the women in that light. I don't gawk at the women. If I look at a woman's chest, it's because she's got a t-shirt with something written across the front of it. And if she don't want anybody to read it, then she shouldn't wear a t-shirt. But this is just a good example of how they've taken, situations and twisted, and in many instances, taken my words and used them against me.
There were several other racial accusations that supposedly had come from you. Could you address those this morning?
Yeah, be glad to. I had an incident, actually I had a hearing, and the attorney whose name was mentioned, it's unfortunate that his name come up because he's a very fine individual. I've been knowing him for years, and he's a good attorney. And I felt like that they could have filed a complaint and not had to use his name. But this attorney had come in. It's at probably the middle of last year when our country is being literally torn apart with all the rioting and the looting, all the racial division, people's buildings and businesses being destroyed, people being killed. Everything's a racial slur. Aunt Jemima can't be the maple syrup no more. Uncle Ben's rice no longer exists. Dixie chicks have to drop the word Dixie. I mean, it's cancel culture at its worst. So we had a hearing. And the way I recall it, when the hearing was over, we had a discussion about what is going on in our country today. And I said, everything's a racial slur. And I said, I'm happy to say that I don't know many racial slurs. And I'm glad I don't. And I told him, I said, one of the few that I know was shared with me when I worked at a automobile dealership years ago, and it had something to do with the word Pontiac. Now, Jimmy Dale, if I share a racial slur with you that I've learned, that's not using a racial slur. That's just letting you know that I have become aware of something that I didn't know. And there's a lot of this, there's a lot of slurs out there that you and I are totally oblivious from because we're not into that. So that explains that situation. That was a conversation where I was sharing with him a racial slur that somebody had shared with me one time, and I was not using it. I don't use racial slurs. I don't use racial slurs. But, just another instance of how this little group is trying to twist and use words against me. And it's all because of their attempt to remove me from office. And I don't know why the person that initiated this initiated, but they've caused a lot of pain and a lot of miserable hours for people. And I would garner more so for them than for me because I am protected. I know the truth. I'm going to stand on the truth. I've told you what I've done this morning, and I'll always admit my shortcomings, but I'm not going to admit to something I didn't do. And even in the complaint, you can read the complaint the way that it's been constructed. I am criticized for denying the accusations. So this whole process to me seems somewhat slanted, but it is the process, and I have to deal with it because it is what it is.
Can you speak to, Randy, during that racial unrest in our country, and a gentleman that was killed by police in Minnesota?
Mr. Floyd. I'll be glad to speak
that.
to that. I have told numerous people that I have not even been able to watch the full-length video because it is so disturbing to me. I've been accused of saying that Mr. Floyd deserved to die, and that is a blatant lie. I never said that. I have told numerous people that I've talked to about this incident that had one officer had the presence of mind to knock that officer off of Mr. Floyd, that there's a possibility that we could have had a coming together in this country instead of all this division. I've always been told once a person is handcuffed, the altercation is over. And that wasn't the case as far as I saw it. But anybody that would accuse me of saying that anybody deserved to die is just telling a lie.
In the complaint, the accusers and several of the other individuals who are mentioned in the complaint are known by their initials. Their initials.
Mm-hmm.
Now, talk about Miss RT. Who is she, and how did that come to work?
RT is Rebecca Tanner. She is a friend of mine. She befriended me when I used to eat at the Huddle House in Harpersville many years ago. I used to go there and eat, and I've told everybody I eat my breakfast there because they burn my sausage like I like it. My mother always burnt sausage. That's the way I like it. Most people will not burn your sausage, but this
So there's nothing into burnt sausage, right?
Well, that's the way I like it.
Okay.
But anyway, this cooked my sausage the first time I went there, just like I liked it. So I started frequenting this place, and I'd take a book, and I may sit there an hour and a half and enjoy my breakfast. And this waitress sometimes waited on me, sometimes not. But then after I got used to going there, I would sit in her section. She'd wait on me. She knew I was a reader. She knew I always brought a book. So one day she comes in and she says, "Have you read the book, The Shack?" And I said, "I haven't heard of it." She says, "If you ever start reading it, you won't put it down." So the next week, she brought me the book. So we become friends. She had some pain pill issues because I Googled her, and I found her mugshot. And I told her I found her mugshot. And she told me what she was in trouble for. Shortly after that 2 or 3 months that I was eating there, maybe 5 or 6 months, they brought in a new manager. All the waitresses quit. In 2 months, the Huddle House was closed. And I lost track of her except on social media. And every now and then she'd check in. She'd tell me, "I'm at the Love Lady Center." So I knew she was in trouble. Then about 4.5 years ago, she sent me a message and she said, "Randy, I'm in trouble." And I said, what's wrong? And she said, I'm 7 months pregnant. I have no job. I have no money. I have no place to live. And I said, woo, you went me in a bad way. I said, what are you going to do? She said, my mother and I have never had a relationship. We've never got along, but I need to go home. So I was going to get her plane ticket home, but she had a dog. I was going to rent a car, and I thought that couldn't turn out right. So I drove her home straight through and Platte City is near Tampa Bay. Her mother gave me a guest bedroom. I slept 3 hours. I left her a note. I left her a few dollars, and I come back home. She had the baby, and a year or so later, maybe a year and a half, she sends me a message one day. She says, I'm back. I said, back where? She said, in Shelby County. And I knew that was a mistake because that's where all her problems lie. Long story short, she had violated her probation. She got locked up. She got caught with possession. And she got put in jail in October of 2019. And she would send me messages from the jail. And I would put a little money on her card so she could buy snacks and stuff. A lot of people do this. I met an attorney. He said, we go and minister to women in the jail all the time. We pray with them, we counsel them, we read the Bible with them. And he said, and we put money on her card so they have a little spending cash. But she convinced me that she had nobody else to help her. Nobody. And I knew she didn't have nobody when I took her to Florida. She'd have done been down there. So I told her, I said, she said, when I get out, could you help me? Just take me under your wing and help me get on my feet. I'm ready to get my life straight. And I said, I will. And I even shared with my chief clerk that, if there was a part-time job or something, and we have people, trustees that work at the courthouse, that when they get out, the county has hired them, so I knew it was something that had been done before. And I told her, I said, I'll help you, and I'll help you with some lodging. And I ended up buying an RV, set it next to the house. I had to do some work on it. It didn't have any heat, didn't have any hot water. And then, before I had a chance to get it fixed up for her to live in, she got released because of COVID. I mean, just one evening, they called me and said, now I had inquired with the DA, but I never made any kind of contact with the judge. So there's no ex parte communication there as far as I can see. Another attorney that does the same thing, counseling these women, he intervened and filed a petition that ultimately got her released. And I literally got a call, and they said she's waiting in the waiting room at the jail. She's been released and she's waiting. So I had to go get her. I mean, I had committed to help her. I'm going to stand by my word. I brought her. She stayed in my home for 3 nights. I took her to a home in Harpersville where she's going to catch a ride with her daughter's uncles, the way she described him, to go get her belongings and come back. Mm-hmm. And I haven't seen her since. Randy, now, keep in mind, we're in the middle of a shutdown. We're in the middle of a stay-at-home order. The courthouse is closed. And I told her, I said, you've been released at the worst possible time. So we've got to weather through this until I can help you find a job. But there was no relationship there. There was nothing. No
sexual, emotional?
Nothing, absolutely nothing. She had her bedroom at the other end of the house, and I stayed at my end. I did discover after she left that she had went into my medicine cabinet and drank probably nearly at least a third bottle of Vicks nighttime NyQuil, and I knew then she wasn't where she needed to be. And then during this pandemic and stay at home, she wanted to travel, go anywhere. I said, look, you don't respect me, you don't respect the law, you haven't respected the attorney that got you, that filed a petition, and you don't respect the judge that let you out. And I said, and now you don't respect that we're in the middle of a stay-at-home pandemic. So you're not ready, so just stay where you're at, because you're not going to expose me and me expose my family with this pandemic. And I have not seen her since that day. I was going to do what I committed to her that I was going to do. And this is just one instance of many that I have helped people.
We're short on time, but I do want you to understand that a lot of people watching this will listen to this story and say, well, that is a strange story.
Well, strange as it may be, it's the truth. It's the truth. And I'm not going to lie about it. It's the honest to God's truth. And if she had done right, she'd have been in that RV, and I would have helped her got a job and some transportation, and maybe she'd be in a good place now. But as the attorney told me that counsels women in the jail, he says, 90% of the time, they're going to break your heart because they're not ready. And he said, but don't ever let that stop you reaching out and trying to help somebody.
I got to get to, before we go this morning, the incident with the sandwich. Some people may laugh at that, but that's a very serious thing. Go ahead.
2 instances, I had eaten lunch and had enough left to take home and either eat for supper or the next day. And I put them in the refrigerator in the probate office. And in both instances, my food was stolen. So on July the 14th of last year, the runoff day, Miss Orlean Heath, who is a dear friend of mine, her daughter has cancer right now, and I'm involved in some fundraising efforts to try to help her raise some money to go get some cancer treatment. I got a CD I'm going to try to put out in a few days to help. Anyway, Miss Orlean called me at 3 o'clock. I went out. She was soaking wet. She cleans houses for a living. She said, I brought you a barbecue sandwich, and I brought some produce that I just bought at the market to share with you. And it was an act of kindness. I'm usually doing stuff like this. Rarely does people do this for me. And it really touched me. And I went in the office and I said, this is mine. I'm putting it in the back of the refrigerator. Well, when I went in there the next day to get it, it was gone. And this is the 3rd time it's happened, and I hadn't said anything to anybody. But this is different. This lady performed an act of kindness that touched me deeply, and somebody stole it. And I got mad.
You lost it a little bit.
I told him, I said, somebody stole my damn sandwich. And I said, that aggravates it out of me. And I went to my office, and I went to Jack's, and I ate, and I come back, and I wrote an email letter and sent it to everybody saying that nobody should have to put their name on a styrofoam container with their food, because you know if you didn't put it in there, it doesn't belong to you. And I said, I'm disappointed that anybody that has access to our office would steal somebody's food, and it didn't need to happen again to me, and it didn't need to happen to anybody else. That's the only time these people have ever seen me mad. But yeah, I got mad. It was an act of kindness that was stolen from me, and I think you would have got mad too.
So you, before we go, you think it's a group of people that's orchestrating this?
It's an inside group, a coup. It's a group that was already there. There are only 2 of them left. And it's an unfortunate situation.
Yeah.
I wish it hadn't happened. But I'm going to be a better person when it's all over with. I'm a better person now. And I would bargain that they are miserable.
30 seconds.
I just want you to know, I'm the same Randy I always was. I think I come on a show here right before the election. When Don Stevens hosted me, it was the morning of the election when I won the runoff. And I told Don that day, he asked me about Randy Jinks, and I told him a little bit about myself, and I told him, I said, I swear sometimes, Don. I said, in the heat of the moment, if I get mad, I swear sometimes. Not bad, but if I get provoked, I will swear. So I got mad in the courthouse at one time, but that's the only time they've seen it. Anybody that's been in my courtroom has seen me. They know I care. I get emotional many times because I care about the job. These are lies, innuendos, half-truths. And
Got to go.
I'm here to
Thank you for the book. Thank you for coming this morning.
Make you understand.
Randy Jinks.
Thank you.
Back with more after this.